Welcome guys. It's a weekend, working on the bike, and today's video is going to be all about my theory, how I do it on chain tensioning and rear wheel alignment. I feel like this is one of those things that, kind of like valve adjustments, it's actually a really simple thing, but it's really easy to overthink. And it is one of those things that, like valve adjustments, you have to do it a few times to get a feel for it. So the purpose of today's video is to tell you how I do it, and maybe this will give you a little confidence if you're working on your Himalayan to get out there and do this thing, because it's really the ability to change a tire, the ability to tension and adjust your chain, align your rear wheel, change out some brake pads. These are actually very basic maintenance items that, in my opinion, everyone who owns one of these bikes should be able to do, because it's not that hard. So let's talk about this thing. Rear wheels installed on the bike. We put our new rear tire on, and we did some lubrication work when the wheel was off. I will say that when you take your wheel off, it's good to lube up your swing arm and your shock linkages and all of those bearings in there that need to be lubed. There'll be another video on that. But we have our wheel on now, and it's time to align it and adjust the chain. I'm going to tell you how I do it, okay? On your rear wheel, you have, on the Himalayan, on each side of the swing arm, you have a tension adjuster. And by pulling or turning this nut on the back, it's a 12mm nut on the back here, very back of the swing arm, what you're going to do is move the alignment of the rear wheel inside the swing arm. And there's a couple of reasons you do this. So on a motorcycle, there are three measurements at play. The first one is the measurement between the front tire and the rear tire, the alignment between those two tires, and you want them as close as possible. The second piece is the alignment of the sprockets. You want the front sprocket and the rear sprocket and the chain aligned as perfectly straight as you can to minimize any side wear on the chain sprocket and maximum power delivery to the rear wheel. You're not losing any in any kind of side play. The third is, of course, your chain tension. If you have a really nice motorcycle, you have a BMW, you have a Japanese bike, these motorcycles that have very tight tolerances, okay, that's how you would define nice. It is very possible to get all three of those things in perfect alignment. You can use a string from the front tire to the rear tire, lots of YouTube videos on that. I'm not going to make one, and this is going to sound maybe to some people kind of controversial, but again, this is how I do it. You do it your way. I don't even bother with that on a bike like this, not on a Himalayan. This is an old style bike, even if they're still manufactured in the 2020s, right? 2022, 2023, this one here. They're loose tolerances mostly, and it's kind of an old school way of working on bikes before we had these super tight tolerances on motorcycles, okay? I don't even bother with the front wheel and rear wheel alignment. I don't even bother with it. What I bother with is getting the rear wheel perfectly aligned, the sprockets perfectly aligned, so that the chain alignment, and I make sure the chain is tensioned correctly. And then with a bike like this, I go ride it. And unless it is extremely bad, like pulling terrible, or the tires are like, I don't know, chewing off one side of the tire first, I forget about it and ride the bike. The reason for that is, on a bike like this, it's very hard to get all three of those in alignment. Once you get your chain perfectly tensioned and you get your chain perfectly aligned, you might have moved that alignment a little bit. If you use string first and you align the front tire and the rear tire, and then you go to do this, you may find that you can't get your proper chain tension right without putting your sprocket alignment off. You kind of have to choose 2 out of 3 with a bike like this. And so how I do it is I choose sprocket alignment, chain alignment, and chain tension. Those are the 2 I'm going to get perfect. And you know, if this bike was a bike that had perfect, swing arm alignment and everything on the bike was really tight tolerances, and I'm already imagining I probably wouldn't have bought a Royal Enfield if that's what I wanted. There's a lot of Japanese bikes that you can do that on. A lot of Japanese bikes that don't have this simple adjustment mechanism. They actually have like a block and 2 nuts, and it's very easy to get it aligned right, whereas this is just the axle and a little carrier in there and then 1 adjustment on the back. It's just super simple. So, all that being said, I let go of the idea of front and rear tire alignment. I don't even bother with it on the bike. I get these 2 things as perfect as I can and I ride the bike. So, let me show you what I do. When you go to do this, the first thing you want to do is you want to look at the marks on the side of the swing arm, okay? And I'll show you how I've marked it. So here's the marks here. Let's zoom in real good. And what we have here is this mark right here. Now I put that mark on it. When I first got the bike, this was aligned with this mark here, and I dimpled that one, and I did it on the same on the other side. So after you get your rear, whatever you're doing, your rear tire put on or everything else, put everything back together and get this mark aligned, or this line aligned, exactly as it was when you first got the bike. Okay? These are guidelines. These are not exact. These are stamped parts. These marks do not know the condition of your chain. They do not know what sprocket you have on there. They're just little guidelines on stamped metal parts to give you a really good beginning. So that's what I do, is I get them aligned just right. Next, I tension my chain, and I get my tension as close to where I want it as possible. Spec on this bike is 20 to 30 millimeters. I like to park this tension right at 25 millimeters of play, as measured by a super high-tech measuring tool here. I keep one of these in my tank bag. I get my 25 millimeters of play, and then I put on this little guy. This is a little alignment tool. This is the Motion Pro 080048 chain alignment tool, and man is it cool. It's a poor man's laser alignment. Let me show you how it works. Okay, I'm going to take it, and all it is a little vise and a straight piece of straight steel. And we're just going to put this at the 12 o'clock position approximately on the chain and tighten this down against the sprocket, making sure it contacts the sprocket and not the chain, and we're as high up on it as possible. And the second it starts to bite, no torque on it, literally just, that's it. It doesn't need to be on very tight. Okay, just enough. And then I want to move my wheel so that rod is parallel to the chain. Now, coming back to the back of the motorcycle, we can see the alignment. And this is super cool here. Let's see if we can shed some light on this situation. The parallax of the camera might not capture this perfectly. What you're looking for, you sight down, a little bit out of focus there. If you sight down from the position of behind the bike, kind of get really low, and you want to look straight down this rod like this. You're looking down it like a rifle, and you want to see it be the same distance approximately at the back of the rod where the clamp goes on as the front of the rod. If the rod is cocked off this way, you know you need to adjust that axle to bring it into alignment. If it's cocked off this way, you're going to need to bring this side forward and this side back to bring it into alignment, and then recheck your tension. This means that if you play with those settings, you're going to get your chain tension right, and you're going to get your chain properly aligned. Trust me on this, if you just go by the marks on the side of the swing arm, okay, if you just go by these marks here, and you put the alignment tool on it, you may find that your chain is absolutely not aligned straight, or your sprockets aren't aligned straight. And that's going to mean faster chain wear, less power delivery, faster sprocket wear, all that stuff. And you can check it super fast with this $13 tool that can go in your tool roll for off-road. It's especially nice if you need to change a tube. You can take this thing, clamp it on the bike, boom. Get a really good idea if we're aligned here. They make laser alignment too. You can get those. Really just, you know, they all do the same thing. But this thing has no batteries. It goes in the tool roll. Super simple to use. and it gets it going. Now, if I were to align my front tire and my rear tire by making these adjustments perfectly, it's very possible I'm going to put that out of alignment or not be able to tension the chain to the spec I want, which is 25 millimeters. All right. Again, this is not a race bike. I'm not going to be carving corners. My last name is not Rossi, and what I want to do is go camping. For a Himalayan, this is just fine. You can do it in about 10 minutes once you get good at it. Super easy to do, and then go ahead and torque up your nut there. I will say one thing when you're working on this bike, you're doing this job, this nut, you want it as snug as possible and still be able to tap it forward with a hammer. Okay, because the reason for that is when you go to torque this, it's going to want to turn the axle. It's going to want to bring this side backwards, because as this turns against the metal, it's going to want to walk that back until enough torque is applied to bite down on the swing arm. So you really have to watch it. You kind of get it right, turn it a little. Okay, if it walked back, tap it forward again. Turn it a little, walk back, tap it forward again. Check your measurements, right? And then when you get it to where it doesn't move anymore, you can go ahead and apply that 51 foot-pounds, 70 Newton meters of torque. Really cool thing to remember, the torque on this is the exact same as the swing arm nut torque. So 51 foot-pounds. And then the linkages for the shock is 36 foot-pounds. So if you're working in your garage, always use a torque wrench. Off-road, you know, get it good and tight without, you know, over-torquing it as best you can, and then fix your torques when you get home. So that's how I do it, guys. There's not a lot of magic to it. Super simple. This bike's going to ride just fine. Next project up is going to be pulling off that front tire and getting it all ready, because I have to wait until Tuesday for my front tire to come in. So we'll pull the front tire off today, pull the wheel off today, and then actually re-grease and prepare the headstock bearings. That'll be today's other project. Anyway, whatever you guys are doing in your garage today, hope it goes excellent. This is how I do it. Hopefully this helps you. Have an awesome day.